Philip Collier here from Urban Homes Real Estate. Today we're in the west end of Toronto in the Junction neighborhood, touring the Craft Residences Sales Gallery. We're joined by Sean Zahedi, Executive Vice President at Rad Marketing. He's going to give us the breakdown of what the opportunity here at Craft is all about.
And thank you for making time today at this beautiful new showroom that just recently opened right over here in the west end of Toronto, the Junction. It's a neighborhood I don't know too much about, so I'd love to hear kind of your input on this.
Yeah, so actually I'm a proud West Ender myself. I live probably 5 minutes from here, and if you look at West End, so basically you're surrounded by some of the most well-known pockets. Well, that can be High Park, Swansea, Roncesvalles, Baby Point, Kingsway, you name it. But one of the last pieces or pockets that are kind of like underdeveloped in the West End is Junction. I was checking something actually with City of Toronto, and right now I think we have around 12 or 13 applications in the Junction area, and that speaks volume. The reason for that, a lot of developers, a lot of institutional guys notice that this area has great potential. Going back to glorious or first days of Vaughan or Canary District or King West. You know, a lot of people think, oh, you know what, Sean, I wish I could get into King West. I wish I could get into Canary. I wish I could get into Vaughan when it was like $450 a foot, right? I believe that same thing's happening in Junction area. This is one of the very few pockets that you still have that growth potential over the next few years.
So you're saying it's at the beginning of a large growth curve?
I believe so.
As opposed to kind of some other areas that have already seen their growth over the last 10, 15 years. And now if you buy into those areas, you're at the end. So the potential for growth in those areas is reduced.
Yeah, I guess there are two school of thoughts, right? One is that you want to go to an area that is fully established. You don't want to take much of a risk, right? Whereas the other way to do it is to just go somewhere that is new or is at the verge of huge change, right? I believe Junction is that area. So at least 4 developers that I'm talking to, they're going to have projects in this area. So that speaks volume. One of them is going to be over 1 million square feet of redevelopments. That's huge. So I think the Junction, the way we know it today versus like 5 years, 10 years from now, it's going to be day and night.
And I understand we're sandwiched between some very strong, powerful neighborhoods in the city here. We have Hyde Park to the south of us and the Kingsway to the west of us.
Yep.
I think that sandwich effect, being between those very high-end neighborhoods, will have an impact on the Junction?
Yeah, so let's put it this way. So if you were to buy a house, let's say like a 20-foot or 25-foot in Hyde Park, we're talking to, I would say starting point would be around 2.5 million. And for the New York builds, it can be as high as like 4 million plus. Not everyone can afford that, right? Same thing applies to Baby Point and Kingsway, right? So I think the average price is going to be like 3.5 all the way to, I think that one of the highest transactions ever happened in Kingsway was $11 million. So you see that they're two of the most elite pockets in West End. And you're kind of like 5 minutes drive from Junction. So chances are a lot of people want to be close to those amazing outdoor amenities of Kingsway and Baby Ponds and Hyde Park, but they don't have that budget. I think Junction is their basically next place to go to.
So I understand the neighborhood now. It seems like it's primed for growth. Let's talk about the builder a bit. I had the pleasure of working on some of Gerlach's previous projects, so I know them a little bit. I know they love mid-rise condominiums. That's their specialty. I noticed the features and the materials used in this project are quite unique. They have bricks from Belgium, other materials from Europe. What was behind that decision to source materials?
I'm glad that you asked that question. So if you look at the history of Gerlach Developments, which is the main developer of this project, so they're known to do a lot of boutique buildings. And that journey started with 383 Soren. So that project was completed a few years back. And if you look at that building, in comparison to other, I would say, neighboring properties and buildings, they're probably getting anywhere from $150 to $200 more per foot when it comes to resale transactions, and that speaks volume. So going back to Gerlach again, so they have 4 projects in various stages of construction. 1414 Bayview, it's out actually close to Leaside. We had the pleasure to work with them on Leaside Common, and we had great success with you and your team as well. Craft is the next one. They also have 2 other projects coming to Junction as well in coming years, and they're fully vested actually. This is probably number 1 area for Gerlach in terms of what they have in their pipeline to bring. When it comes to finishes and craftsmanship, As you know, Rad Marketing, we're basically privileged to work with a lot of great developers in this city. So I've been involved with 32 plus, I would say 32 or 33 projects over the course of my time in this business. So the attention to detail, what they bring to the clients, and the level of care when it comes to projects, it's second to none. And that basically translates into better growth potential and appreciation over time for investors and consumers in these buildings as well. Gas range is a standard, which is something that you have to pay extra as an upgrade when you are to go to other projects, right? So use of natural stone is very common in most Gerlach projects. Premium products like Scavellini kitchens, built-in appliances. In this building, well, we have another collection called Prestige. We have 2 units on the 4th floor, and we have 4 units on penthouse level, which is 8th floor of this building. They'll all get Gagano appliances. For those of your audience who are familiar with that brand, they're not so cheap. So those are all standard in this building. And at the end of the day, as I said, this is going to translate into higher appreciation and more growth potential for any of the future investors and buyers in this type of building.
So this is clearly a very luxurious boutique-sized building with lots of premium finishes and appliances. After COVID, do you see a higher demand for these smaller boutique buildings, less than 100 units, as opposed to the traditional high-rise settings that were available or are still available as well?
Yeah, for sure. During COVID, what we noticed, because we're very involved with all aspects of our project, from design, from unit mix, from placement of units and everything. So one of the things that we noticed was that, especially during COVID, a lot of people started appreciating the outdoor space and terraces more than ever. And that continues to be the trend moving forward. And so that's why in this building, if you look at the north side of the building, so pretty much every unit on the north side, they have deeper terraces. And with that deep terrace, we'll give gas connection and water bibs as well. So those are very rare offerings for condos. Remember, we're not talking about houses or custom homes. We're talking about condos with deep terraces, gas connection. You can have gas barbecue. So those are things that the details that we along with Gerlach developers, we always think, because we want to say, okay, who's going to be in these buildings? Who's going to be living here, right? Another thing that is great, especially for your investor clients, is that this is not a stacked building. So chances are you've seen those tall towers. You buy 1 unit on the 2nd floor, that stacks goes all the way to 50th floor, right? O2, they're all the same, right? There's a problem with that. So here comes occupancy. You get your key, you're a proud owner, you want to rent it out or you want to flip it, right? Chances are you deal with tens, if not hundreds of listings in your building, right? And guess what? One of those guys sell it below that market value. Guess what? That becomes comparable for the building. And it's really hard for the building to bounce back from that. Versus buildings like this, 2nd floor, 3rd floor, 4th floor, everything all the way up. They're not stacked. Chances are you have one of very few in the building. And you being the landlord, you being the future actually seller of these units, that puts you in a very good position to push for that premium because you don't have much competition.
Mm-hmm. So the boutique building naturally creates a scarcity of products.
Yes.
And that scarcity in the long run will allow you to rent for a higher price and sell for a higher price.
That's exactly what we've seen. And if you look at 383 Soren, I mean, you're a licensed, successful realtor. You can go and check it yourself. If you look at the number of listings in the past few years in that building, what they're trading at, it's much greater than some of the comparables in the area for taller towers. So that's, I believe, same story is going to repeat itself here at Craft as well.
I'm glad you brought up terraces. I noticed that terrace space is quite readily available in this building.
Yes.
As opposed to a lot of other buildings we're seeing nowadays that actually have 0 outdoor spaces, right? There's common element is high rises in the middle of the city, no balconies at all. So what was behind that decision? Is that something the builder feels would be more valued?
I think if you were to look at demographic and those future occupants of this building, they will appreciate having terrace here. This is not another project in downtown. This is not a 80-story on King Street, right? I know I can name at least 4 or 5 projects trading today in the market with 0 outdoor space. So I don't think that's going to work here. So if you look at demographic, most of these people, they're savvy investors. They buy actually larger units for investment, or they're downsizers from homes from the area, right? They want to maintain the lifestyle, meaning that they used to have yards, they used to have space, they used to have gas barbecue. And that's why those are the features and finishes that we implemented here in this building as well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And the building is pet friendly. Is it bicycle friendly as
Yes,
well?
yeah, pet friendly. So we have, if you look at the ground level, on the northwest side of the building, on the ground level, so we have fitness studio, fire pit lounge area, a party room, community, basically co-working space. So these are great features that we have in this building as well. Another thing that we have with this building, we partnered with a company called One Valet. So it's backed by Rogers Communication, and basically you can control anything and everything to do with your unit, booking your amenities, entering your unit, access to underground parking. It can all be simply done through that app on your phone or your watch. So that's something very. It's going to be very efficient.
So is this where the camera in the parking garage reads your license plate and opens?
Yeah.
up?
So all those features are built into that app, and that app is capable of doing all that versus like having a lot of people involved, right? So that system proven to be very efficient. I think this is probably fourth, if not fifth project that I've been working on for the past 2 years that we have that system.
That's excellent functionality to add.
Yeah.
Everybody wants the modern touches, right?
Yeah, and I guess at the end of the day, it's going to make it efficient for residents, and it's great. It's great to be living in a building that everything runs smoothly, right? Versus like having issues all the time, right? That's another thing when you are to deal with like taller towers. Sometimes it all comes down to the management and who's going to run it, right? So obviously, having only 86 units in this building, that helps to manage it, I would say, easier than having like 500 units, right? So that's something that a lot of people these days appreciate, right? If you were to ask me, I live in a house, I have a driveway, I have cars, whatever. But if you were to ask me, if you were to go to live in a condo, where would you go? Would you go to tall towers, like amazing views and everything, or you go to boutique condos? I would definitely pick boutique myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is the boutique buildings will last the test of time better because the amenities are not used as frequently. The hallways, the elevators are taken care of better. Most likely, majority of the buyers here are end users, from what you're telling me.
Yeah, I would say like if you look at it, so this is a very fresh store for us. We officially opened doors of this office 2 weeks ago, and I can tell you based on all those transactions we've had in the past 2 weeks, pretty much most of these people are people from West End, and most of them are end users. So yes, we do have investors in this building too, but I don't think you're going to see same ratios as you see downtown. Whereas you have 80% of the building basically bought by investors and 20% end users. So this is, I would say, probably going to be reversed. I would say 70 to 80% purchasers in this building are end users, 20 to 30% investors.
And how would you say the rental rate compares in the Junction west of Toronto towards other kind of pockets of the city?
I'm glad you asked that question. So doing what we do, so we always have to be on top of the market because our developer clients always ask that question. Okay, what is it that we can push premium, whether dollar per foot and everything. So we always try to use our analysts in the team to be involved with what's happening, right? So one of the things that we notice, if you are to look at downtown East, so I'm talking about Church Corridor, like Dundas and Church area, right? So they're probably getting $4.80, maybe $5 in some cases. And but if you are to buy in that area, new product, we're talking $1,700, $1,800 a foot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's come to this side of town, Junction. So you're paying around, I would say, an average for $1,400 a foot, $1,450 a foot. I would say blended average in building, right? How much do you think you can get rent? Almost same number that you're getting in downtown East, right? Yeah. To me, the return on your investment and the deposit you put down is much greater in Junction versus downtown. So $1,450, same rent, $1,800, same thing. So that I think that answers your question. So there's another building just finished, not just, but recently finished. It's called, I would say, 2-3 blocks to the west of this location. And they're getting $4.80, $5 a foot rent. And that's a rental building. That's not even a beautiful condo. So that speaks volume. So imagine how much you can get in 3 years when the building's done, right? So I think the trend is pretty up there. Another thing about, if you look at Dundas, so starting from Runnymede all the way to Keele, this is the prime side and a stretch of basically Junction, where all the retails are, right? Restaurants, arched about stores and everything, right? So you're restricted. You can't do 20, 30, 40 stories. Chances are you can only go as high as 8 floors, 7 floors, 6 floors. And for that very reason, yes, we're going to have a lot of condos coming to this area, but they're not going to be that tall. So they're not going to bring a huge volume, right? And those who really want to be in Junction, want to walk to like Junction area for their shopping, you know, going to a restaurant and all that, they don't have too many options. And that's basically keeps rents, in my opinion, pretty high in this area.
That's very interesting. So the rents rate will be the same, if not very similar to downtown core, but the price will be considerably less. So I think that poses the great opportunity here to invest early in the phase of Junction.
I think we did a study back in fall of last year. If you are to compare Junction versus downtown, so downtown we're talking, like I said, $1,700, $1,800 a foot today, versus here around $1,450 a foot, right? That delta, that difference between what you're getting rent and what you're paying is 10%, meaning that Junction is 10% behind than downtown, right? Mm-hmm. That, to me, that's, you have 10% better chance of growing your investment versus downtown, right? Yeah. That, to me, is a great opportunity that not every pocket in the city can offer that.
I agree. I think the west of the city and the east of the city are the real growth pockets right now, because the downtown's already experiencing some strong growth. Now growth's being pushed out to the edges of our city, and the Junction really fits the bill.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with you. So, and that, going back to what I said earlier today, so there are 12 applications around Junction area, and that speaks volume. So it's not just coming from me or you. I mean, the smart guys in this business, they also see that trend as well, and that's where they think that their future project is going to bring them more revenue and more better margins. Yeah.
12 applications and currently under construction. I believe there's 2 projects. Or is there...
I think there are like probably maybe 3 projects under construction. They're not that many, but that's going to change, right? So I guess going back to our point, so this is still early stage of the future growth of Junction. There's still more room. So whereas you come in, okay, so you're at the 10th project or the 12th project, so there's not much room for growth. Whereas here, at this point in time, I think that the potential is pretty great.
Interesting. So the future of this neighborhood, and it's not going to be the King West with high-rise towers everywhere you look. It's going to be more of a European style mid-rise area with lots of ground floor retail.
I think one of the examples I can give you, so if you were to go east, if you look at Beaches area, same thing. 6-story, 7-story over the stretch of like Queen, that's it, right? Mm-hmm. Same thing I can tell you about on Bloor, from Old Mill all the way to like Kingsway, you know, Royal York, same thing, 6-story, 7-story, max. You're not going to see 20, 30, 40-story towers here. And that basically keeps the neighborhood intact. And that's what people like about this area, right? Sense of community. Because that's something that you don't necessarily have that in downtown, right? Walking distance to all the great retails and, you know, specialty stores and cafes and everything. So you don't simply have that, right?
I agree with you. Whether I live downtown in a high-rise, I did not know my neighbors.
Yeah. Here is different. He's definitely different. I think the sense of community, especially at this part in time, is pretty strong.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
That was very informative. I want to thank you so much for your time today. I really learned a lot about the Junction future growth potential over here, and I do see the opportunity. I think it's a great option for investors. So thank you again for your time.
Thanks to you, Philip, and thanks to all your future audience and everyone's watching this video. We're more than happy to serve everyone in this beautiful office.